Firstly, I should like to express my thanks to the General Director for Libraries for his kind invitation to participate in this conference, and to his colleagues for their efficient organisation in getting me here and looking after me. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you also to the interpreters. You're doing a great job up there at the back. And can I also say what a pleasure it is to hear young people's excited voices as they learn and discover about science in this wonderful venue here. Okay, many of you will perhaps not have heard of Loughborough. It's a small market town in the centre of England, about 1.5 hours away from London by train, and close to the nearby East Midlands Airport. You can see it over here on the in the middle of the country. And Antonio, I hope this brings back memories.
I was there.
So earlier in my career, as has already been said, I worked in public and university libraries, and since then I've worked in academia for over 25 years in 3 different universities in a range of roles. I've been at Loughborough University for 2 spells, from 1991 to 1997 and 2006 to the present. On the slide here is an aerial view of Loughborough University. It's a large campus university in the East Midlands of England. It's one of the country's leading universities. It's consistently ranked among the top 20 in the UK. And as well as home and European students, it has many students from around the world. Now, from 2009-2011, I was head of the then Department of Information Science. From 1980 to 2012, the department was on the top of the library building. So there were very close links between practitioners and educators. From August 2013, following a review of information management, information systems and information science across the university, much of the focus of the former Department of Information Science has now moved to a new discipline group of information management within the School of Business and Economics. And that's this big new building here. And I'm now head of discipline information management, and I'm responsible for delivery and development of learning and teaching for this discipline. The discipline's research activities focus around a new research centre for information management, which was launched officially in September of this year. So at this time, when we in Loughborough are very much looking to the future, it's very opportune for me to participate in this conference with colleagues here from Mexico and around the world who are facing similar issues, keen to share experiences and ideas, and looking to exploit opportunities. So what am I going to talk about? The topic of this session, training and professionalisation of human resources, is vital to success in this dynamic global environment. I was talking to some of our postgraduate students recently about the different kinds of information and library services, and as part of this, referred to the 3 main roles of a university library: supporting research, supporting learning and teaching, and providing a scholarly resource. All of you here will recognise these, but you will also no doubt reflect on the many changes in recent years that have affected how these are carried out, and the challenges that this has brought to you as individuals and as teams. You may have asked yourselves, how did my education prepare me for this? How can I keep my skills up to date? How can I manage all of this individually and institutionally? Moreover, what are the recent and future developments that will impact on your service delivery? What are the implications of these for the education and training of information and library professionals? And is there already a threat to the professional status of librarians? How are we perceived by others? The human resource issue is vital to success in dealing with these issues in the current dynamic and global environment in which we find ourselves. In the UK, in recent years, there have been many factors that have impacted on university libraries, the people that work there and the people who use them. Technology, as we've heard already, has had a major impact. It has transformed the way we store and access information. Our libraries have become a hybrid of the physical and the digital. In England, for example, I think of the wireless environment, the growth of e-resources, the increasing use of mobile devices, the physical library versus the virtual. The point is well illustrated by the quote here from a JISC report. JISC is the UK's expert on digital technologies for education and research. It provides relevant and useful advice, digital content and network and IT services, while it researches and develops new technologies and ways of working. In a paper I presented in 2010, so just 3 years ago, I listed these items on the slide as emerging technologies that were impacting on libraries at that time. So there were things like blogs, wikis, RSS feeds, and so on. Now I would add others. Open access and institutional repositories. MOOCs, we've all heard about these over the last couple of days, and no doubt you can add others to this list as well. Also in 2010, for this paper, I noted issues and challenges related to these technological advances. Issues included those listed here. IT developments and services outside the library, mobile technologies, e-learning and e-literacy. Challenges that face library managers included matching library services to institutional priorities, managing the growing array of e-resources, digital preservation and access, changes in the use of space, and staff attitudes to change. And I see that these are themes of this conference as well. Other challenges that face library managers include leadership and succession planning. And there certainly has been much activity in the UK in this area. And the convergence and deconvergence of library services with others. And more recently, shared services in library buildings. Things have indeed moved on rapidly, even just in the last 3 years. And a look at recent job advertisements has illustrated this for me, and I think reflects new services and roles that we've heard about from other speakers already. And it emphasises the dynamic nature of the academic library environment. So data librarian, online content manager, enterprise architecture librarian, some of you may know what that means, research associate in big social data, digital curator, research librarian and data specialist, research data manager, and a Wikipedian. The National Library of Scotland recently appointed one. The well-established and regarded NMC Horizon reports chart the landscape of emerging technologies for teaching, learning and research, creative inquiry and information management. Again, I've looked at the predictions for 2010, and interesting to see what they were for 2013. And there's quite a few of these we've already talked about. Quite a few speakers have mentioned MOOCs, tablet computing, and I think one of the slides as well, somebody touched on games and gamification, learning analytics, and several speakers have mentioned 3D printing. And we're all aware of wearable technology as well. Now, if you still need convincing, look at what goes on all around us. Universities and their libraries are not, as you are aware, immune from all of this. For example, every 60 seconds worldwide, there are 270,000 tweets, 72 hours of video added on YouTube, 571 websites created, 2 million searches on Google, 204 million emails, and so on. There are other factors too. It's not just about IT, and again other speakers have raised relevant issues. We have faced other non-technical factors too. And I'm thinking of back in England, we faced changes in the makeup of the student population. and student expectations, especially with higher tuition fees in England, innovations in learning and teaching, financial constraints in a worldwide recession, encouragement to move to greener, more sustainable buildings and service delivery, and a general questioning of the role of the physical library. It's not all about IT, but we can't escape its impact on all aspects of our lives. Right, so those are changes that I've mentioned that we've faced. So what role can educators play? Professor Chris Linton, Deputy Vice-Chancellor at Loughborough University, in his opening remarks at the launch of our new Centre for Information Management, said, how do we move this digital landscape forward? He answered his own question: it's essential that we build on research and education. One thing we can do is to consider authoritative reports on the future of libraries. And I think a few other speakers have mentioned this. For example, in the UK, the recent Libraries of the Future project. And they came up with various scenarios. I won't go into detail now through time, but there are links and references at the end of the presentation. Please pursue those. But a glance at some photographs reflect the desire to keep abreast with developments, illustrates as well the impact of technology and the changes in the academic environment inside and outside of new or refurbished university libraries in the UK. This is the new entrance to the new level 4. That's the space that my old department vacated in the library at Loughborough University. That's the recently reopened, refurbished university library at Aberdeen in Scotland. But public libraries as well have been incorporating the old and the new in new central libraries. The Arts Council England, which has responsibility for supporting and developing the public library sector, has undertaken research to help it understand the future for libraries and how it can enable them to develop. And you can read more about that if you wish in the report with the URL there. Here are some new public libraries, big new central public libraries. This one here, I think you've seen on another slide, the one in the here. This is the new Birmingham Central Library, fantastic design. This is the newly refurbished Liverpool Central Library, and here, this is the Hive. This is a fully integrated public and university library. I think the first of its kind in England. The University of Worcester and Worcestershire County Council bring the range of services together under one roof with a fully integrated service. So, what do we need to do to train and educate the workforce? I think we need even closer, I mean we do this already, but we need even closer collaboration between university departments, employers, students and graduates. We need to think about our programme content. What should it be? Who should determine what it is? Research and enterprise feed into teaching. We need to take that into account, and also look at the requirements of internships or placements. We also need, I think, to develop mechanisms for speedy programme development and approval without loss of quality, because we're in a dynamic environment. I think continuing professional development now needs to be continuous professional development. Such is the pace of change. And programme delivery must be flexible. When, where, how do students, employers want it? We need to think about costs and fees. What will the market bear? There's also a role for the professional associations. They have a role nationally and internationally. In the UK, CILIP, the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, has recently updated its professional knowledge and skills base following wide consultation within the profession and including departments like mine. But CILIP in 2005 had over 22,000 members. Now in 2013 it's 13 to 14,000. Sorry to go back there. Last week CILIP organised a summit on information management. Seems to me to take a while to get round to that, but I've just emailed a colleague who was at the meeting who said that it actually went very well, it was very worthwhile, and there's some very, very positive outcomes. So I look forward to finding out more about that when I get back. There are other professional groups concerned with academic libraries in the UK who are very active in promoting and developing their services and collaboration. Three of them are here: the SCONL, the Society of College, National and University Libraries. There's Research Libraries UK, and where's Susan? I said I'd mention Loughborough as well, which you've already heard about. But, you know, how have things worked out? On the one hand, there are examples of very positive things that have happened. So the European Library Portal, for example, you know, that allows people, you can see the figures at the bottom, big figures, lots of access to lots of sources. On the other hand, and you've heard about the Bologna Declaration, in a recent paper, Ian Johnson from Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen in Scotland has been rather critical of what's happened with regard to that, and suggests there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. We also have an organisation where the departments within the UK work together. This is the British Association for Information and Library Education and Research. But I do wonder if recently we've become preoccupied with self-survival in an increasingly competitive environment driven by league tables. Perhaps we've had less time to pursue external links and collaboration than maybe we would normally have done. Internationally, we come together as well. In recent years, I've been a member of IFLA's section on education and training, and SET recently updated its guidelines for professional library information education programmes and seeks actively to promote these. IFLA SET also sponsors a special interest group on LIS education in developing countries. Now, there's been talk of this being established as a separate section, and I've got mixed views on these. So these are not set views, they're my views. I think it's important that we have a single forum for discussion and exchange of ideas and experiences. On the other hand, does this indicate a reality that there is a widening gap in what can be provided depending where you are in the world, and, for example, what your digital capabilities are in terms of education and practice? So issues that we've been facing in the UK, and you may recognise some of these in your own environment as well, include the ongoing need to convince others that we are a profession, and to convince them that we have a unique knowledge base and skills, particularly when we face competition from others, especially as the Google generation comes of age. There seems to be growing fragmentation of the information library environment. Are practice and education in line is a question we keep needing to ask. What does the job market tell us? In this shifting context, it's difficult for traditional librarianship to keep its identity. Some have suggested we need to move to a new librarianship. In my own institution, we're moving more towards information management. Others suggest that we need more research into this area, and indeed that does seem to be a sensible approach, but, probably echoing Stephen here, if it can be done in a timely manner. So, just to draw to an end, I think this is an example of some research that is going into this field, but are we at a tipping point? In the UK, it's my feeling that those in the academic sector are rising to the challenges. Looking at the new roles in the jobs I mentioned earlier, look at the imagination and purpose that has gone into the new and refurbished buildings. There may be fewer graduates in the traditional area of librarianship, but those there are have quality and should be nurtured to promote the traditional professional skills in the new emerging roles. For example, in developing information literacy, managing research data, supporting and contributing to developments in learning and teaching, facilitating dissemination and impact of academic outputs, and access to global resources. There is education and training to support this, but it needs to move forward. So, to conclude, the The traditional MA/MSc Library and Information Management course from undergraduate loans is making graduates think very carefully about further study, job prospects and salaries. And at a time when there is much coverage in the media of public library service point closures or being given over to management by volunteers, the latter in particular questions librarianship as a profession in some people's minds. And ironically, this is happening at a time when the need for graduates with information management skills is more and more in demand. In the UK, the government has recently published an information economy strategy. The themes on the slide underline the significance of information professionals across society and the impact they can have on the success of the country. Our universities have a key role to play in this. The academic library community must be proactive in supporting this. We all have an exciting future with opportunities there for those of us who wish to seize them. Gracias por su atención.